One of the greatest strengths of a democracy is not the power of its leaders, but the existence of constitutional limits that prevent abuse of power. This principle was strongly emphasized in the landmark case of Francisco Jr. versus House of Representatives, a historic constitutional case that remains highly relevant to the current political situation in the Philippines today. The case arose during the impeachment controversy involving then-Chief Justice Hilario David Jr. Multiple impeachment complaints were filed against him within a short period. The Constitution, however, clearly provides under Article 11, Section 3(5) that impeachment proceedings against the same official may not be initiated more than once within a one-year period. Despite this constitutional limitation, a second impeachment complaint was still pursued. Supporters of the second complaint argued that the House of Representatives possessed exclusive authority over impeachment proceedings and that the courts had no power to interfere. However, the Supreme Court rejected that argument. The court ruled that while Congress possesses broad powers under the Constitution, those powers are not absolute. The judiciary retains the constitutional duty to determine whether any branch of government committed grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction. The ruling became one of the clearest affirmations of the principle that no government institution is above the Constitution, not even Congress itself. The Supreme Court further ruled that once an impeachment complaint has already been initiated, another complaint against the same official within 1 year violates the Constitution. The court rejected attempts to reinterpret the meaning of the word initiate in order to bypass constitutional restrictions. At first glance, many Filipinos may see this case as merely an old legal battle involving technical constitutional procedures, but in reality, its lessons are deeply connected to the present condition of the country today. The Philippines is once again experiencing intense political conflicts, public controversies, institutional disputes, and growing distrust toward government institutions. Questions regarding legitimacy, constitutional authority, political maneuvering, and abuse of institutional power continue dominating public discussions. This is why the Francisco case remains important. The case reminds the nation that constitutional processes are not mere technicalities. They exist precisely to prevent political power from overwhelming democratic order. In times of political chaos, there is always temptation among political groups to use institutions as weapons against opponents. Rules may be stretched. Procedures may be manipulated. Technical interpretations may be adjusted to fit political objectives. But the Constitution exists to place limits, even during political conflict. That is the true lesson of Francisco. The Supreme Court essentially declared, political objectives cannot justify constitutional shortcuts. This lesson is especially important today because many ordinary Filipinos are beginning to lose trust in institutions. Every public controversy involving leadership disputes, corruption allegations, political infighting, and constitutional conflicts slowly damages the credibility of government itself. And once public trust weakens, the effects become dangerous. People begin questioning whether laws are still applied fairly. Citizens begin wondering whether institutions are serving the nation or merely protecting political interests. Young Filipinos begin losing faith in public service itself. Ordinary government workers begin carrying the burden of controversies they never participated in. The danger is no longer merely political instability. The greater danger is the normalization of constitutional disregard. Because once political groups begin believing that rules can simply be adjusted whenever convenient, institutions gradually weaken from within. This is why the Francisco case is highly relevant to modern governance. The case teaches that constitutional limits matter, procedural integrity matters, institutional legitimacy matters, and public trust matters. It reminds government officials that power in a democracy is never unlimited. It reminds the judiciary that courts have the duty to intervene when grave abuse of discretion exists. And it reminds the Filipino people that democracy survives not merely through elections, but through continuous respect for constitutional boundaries. In the present political climate, the challenge facing the country is not simply choosing political sides. The larger challenge is preserving institutional integrity despite political conflict. Because if institutions themselves lose respect for constitutional processes, then public trust eventually collapses. And once trust collapses, even honest public servants, legitimate institutions, and constitutional governance itself begin suffering the consequences. Ultimately, Francisco versus House of Representatives is more than an impeachment case. It is a warning that democracy weakens whenever political ambition becomes stronger than constitutional restraint. And a reminder that the true strength of a republic lies not in the power of its leaders, but in the willingness of its institutions to remain faithful to the Constitution, even during the most politically difficult moments.